You'll often hear, you know, compassion for humanity, and a lot of the people in the conscious community talking about, you know, they want to leave and never come back. They want to, you know, just basically look at this as a big shenanigan, you know what I'm saying? Let me just, listen, I've been into a lot of the gut microbiome topic, and it's, you know, it's leading from gardening, you know what I'm saying? It's just basically all the type of, the things that I understand I'm eating through my skin, you know what I'm saying? And there's just certain things that are happening, and it's a beautiful thing. But one thing to take into account is when you start to say compassion for humanity, it's all starting from you, because at the end of the day, when you talk about humanity, your body is humanity. See, without you individually, humanity doesn't exist. You get what I'm saying? The only reason you see humanity in any kind of way, whether it be favorable or unfavorable, is just because of you. However you see it is on you, but it's all coming from you. And once you get to understand literally what's in you, and it sounds cliche, but I'm talking about literally. See, there's the thing. You can learn things online. You can learn a bunch of things and then just say, oh yeah, we're all one, we're all connected. I'm talking about coming to realizations as to why those things are said. Because at the end of the day, they teach kids to memorize shit in school. You know what I'm saying? A kid really doesn't understand what the fuck my son doesn't know what the fuck he's learning. You know what I'm saying? My son is learning shit just because he's being told to memorize it. But then I gotta, you know, go in there. So, I mean, the beauty part is that he's doing homeschooling, so I get to see everything that's happening and how it's working, because they kind of cut the critical thinking part of things, and, you know, thinking for yourself kind of things, you know. And if you're gonna just learn things online and not really have a realization as to why those things are really said, it's funny how I'm looking at this gut microbiome, you know what I'm saying, and it's just starting to connect a lot of things. And then now I'm doing a little bit of research on it, and one thing is, I'm thinking I'm going into learning some groundbreaking shit. I mean, it's things that are already out there, you know what I'm saying? But the beauty part is that the things that I'm actually looking up online are things that I've literally figured out just by gardening and just, you know, thinking about, you know, the foods and whatnot, and just basically specifically feeding my dog alone a raw food diet, you know what I'm saying? So my dog, you know, when he was maybe up until a year old, he was eating a mix of, like, because I put a video out where he's eating a mix of like eggs and with the shell and dog food and whatnot. I transitioned him, you know, he's 2.5 years old now, but I've transitioned him to a completely raw diet. And raw diet meaning where he's only eating, you know, turkey necks, turkey back, all different types of organs and whatnot, you know, like liver, hearts, beef hearts. He's eating pork feet, you know what I'm saying, tendons, gizzards. I mean, you name it. I'm actually cool with the butcher, so I get all these things at a huge discount. You know what I'm saying? Like, basically, I'll pay, and I'm gonna make a video on it, and basically, because it ties into the gardening thing and whatnot. So basically, you know, what I'm noticing is that and I'm gonna get into why I'm even mentioning all this and whatnot, but everything outside connects to what's happening within you. You know what I'm saying? And it's very interesting how, you know, I started feeding my dog completely raw food, and I'm noticing in the beginning, the first thing that was happening is he was pooping black, like, it looked nasty. It was just like black goo. It looked like the symbiote from like Venom. It was nasty. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, God damn, what the fuck is going on? So, you know, I did some research on it, and what I came to find out was that he was actually detoxing. Like, his colon was all cleaning out from all the garbage that's, you know, this dog food. I'm having a realization as to how atrocious dog food is for dogs. You know what I'm saying? And alone from that is basically the vaccines that have to get put on these dogs, you know what I'm saying, in order for them to just, see, I grew my dog's hair, and I do all the stuff on my dog myself, you know what I'm saying, so I don't have to worry about the vaccine part, because if not, I would have to worry about taking him to the groomers and getting his hair cut and whatnot, but I do all that myself, you know what I'm saying. My dog's trained to the point where I'm cutting his hair, and he's basically very, very still. And you know, it's funny how I give him this food, now he's pooping normally, but another thing that I came to realize is that when I first started feeding him and he started, it changed from all that black tarry poop to now it was just basically a very small amount of hard, and it was like kind of white poop. You know what I'm saying? It was like a light color. And I mean, of course, we already know that's from the bones and whatnot. But I'm like, man, why is he not pooping a lot? He's not, and he doesn't poop often too. But he wasn't pooping a lot, but he's also pooping a very little amount. Literally, I'm giving him a whole turkey back, which is basically a big amount of meat. I take all the fat and the skin out of it. It could be chicken legs, thighs, whatever, turkey leg, whatever it may be. I always pull the skin out, or I pull all the fat out of whatever, piece of meat that I'm giving him. But I'm noticing that the amount of food he eats doesn't match the amount of poop that comes out of him. It's a very, very little amount. And I did some research because I'm thinking that he's constipated. I'm like, God, man, I'm like, fuck, I'm fucking this shit up. You know what I'm saying? But come to find out is that he's actually absorbing all the food. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy how we start to say, you are what you eat. But when you start to look at it from this perspective, you start to look at it as, what you eat literally becomes you, because he's actually absorbing everything he's eating and he's only pooping a small amount. Now, here's another beautiful part about this. The poop doesn't smell. And now, when you look at it, we clean dog's poop up and whatnot. You notice when you step on dog poop, it smells horrendous, but it smears and shits all over your foot. You get what I'm saying? When you look at the poop that comes out of a dog that's eating raw food, after an hour, let's say, just an hour, it literally disintegrates into the ground. If you step on it, it turns into powder, like a white powder. Now, when we feed our plants fertilizers, we feed plants something called bone meal, okay, and blood meal. We feed it fish emulsion. We feed it a bunch of different things. You know what I'm saying? Now, my dog's eating all this raw food, including fish. You know what I'm saying? And he's been on this diet for, about a year now. I mean, I would say close to a year now. And it's been the most phenomenal thing that's happened. I mean, I've noticed his hair is coming in a lot healthier. It cleans his teeth. He grinds on those bones and whatnot, because the dog food actually creates a problem for the teeth in these dogs. You know what I'm saying? Because all the ingredients that are in that dog food actually sticks to their teeth. You know what I'm saying? And when they're eating a raw diet, they're actually cleaning their teeth. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny how it cleans their colon. It's like a totally different ballgame when you do this. Now, vets are against this, but why? Because when you start to do this, you start to not need vets. And it starts to come into play as to how important poop actually is. You know what I'm saying? And I'm talking about in humans as well. You see, whenever you look at compost bins, the most important piece of the compost bin is the broken down matter that these you have the organic matter, you put the food scraps in there, but the insects and microbes, they go in on these decaying food matter, and then what they expel out is waste. But that waste is actually the black gold that makes the nutrients bioavailable for these plants. You know what I'm saying? Now, you want to make sure that you put some wood chips on top. Now, when I look at that, for example, and you're putting it in the soil, that's like it's like the body of the actual soil, let's say, where the wood chips protect those beneficial microbes underground from the sun, from cold temperatures, from basically disturbance of anybody walking on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to disturb the soil. So it's basically when you have your human body, you know what I'm saying? The microbes inside are protected by your body. The skin is kind of like the wood chips. And sometimes those microbes or the bacteria that accumulates on the skin and whatnot is beneficial also, because in turn, it's no different than when the plant gets nutrients, from the sun, and it passes those nutrients down underground to that mycelium network, and in turn that mycelium network feeds the plant from underneath, and it gives nutrients, okay, to the plant from underground. You get what I'm saying? So I kind of look at how the sun, when we produce hormones on our skin called D3, how that impacts the bone health. You know what I'm saying? The beneficial microbes in your stomach as far as to them producing red blood cells, because it all ties into bone health. You know what I'm saying? Like D3, you got because B12 is responsible for the red blood cell formation, and then you also now start to tie into the certain things you eat as to how they compromise the gut microbiome. You know what I'm saying? Where the B12 being a bacteria, you know what I'm saying? You want to start eating a certain way. The beauty part about this is if you look at carnivores, like animals such as wolves or dogs and whatnot, their pH is very, very different than a human. When you look at search reptiles like iguanas and whatnot, they're cold-blooded creatures, you know what I'm saying? And their systems are a lot different. They have to eat a specific diet. The beauty part about humans is that we have a neutral stomach base, you know what I'm saying? So let's say, for example, us being neutral, we have a much more diverse ability to eat a certain variety of things. Now, depending on what you're doing it for, okay? See, because to me, consciousness, there's got to be a creativity that ties into consciousness. You know what I'm saying? See, we're the only species that can actually do that as far as creativity, as to how we can redefine the things that we eat, but also discern and determine what we should be eating depending on what we've already ate. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like in your now moment, you would say, I know where I'm going based on where I've been. You get what I'm saying? It's the same thing when you eat, but what you eat and what's inside of you is basically, you're more bacteria than you are actually a person. You know what I'm saying? And all these things that live within you is kind of like a complete ecosystem that you will find in the soil. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy how when we want to condition our soil, we use cow manure, which is cow poop. We use chicken manure. We use mushroom compost. You know what I'm saying? We start to use these things as nourishment for the soil. Now there's, and I didn't know this, but I did research, and there's such a thing called fecal transplant, where if somebody has a destroyed like bowel, let's say that you have irritable bowel syndrome, or you have I forgot what the disease was called, ulcerative colitis, or like those colitis type of diseases. I forgot the name of them though. They actually do a fecal transplant from a person who's actually has a healthy microbiome, and it literally like instantly cures that person, because now those beneficial microbes go to work, and it's basically like you just put the good guys into outbalance the bad guys. You know what I'm saying? You still need a little bit of the bad guys in there. But it's so funny how we look at poop, we talk about transferring diseases and whatnot, but the diseases are coming from the actual food we're eating, the stresses that we have in life, which cause fungus and infections inside of us. You know what I'm saying? But if we were eating a certain way with no chemicals or no medications or antibiotics and whatnot in the foods, or just basically the emotional part of how we eat these animals depending on how they died, because that's why halal food exists. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's a hormone that gets released into the blood, which stays in the meat, and you eat that. We learned this in elementary school about transferring energy. You cannot kill it, but you could transfer it. As humans, and with our consciousness, of course, we could transmute the energy. You get what I'm saying? So it's interesting how, as the soil, like if there's a problem, there's such a thing that's called fecal transplant. You know what I'm saying? And the FDA, of course, is not too in favor of this, the same way vets are not too in favor of like eating of dogs or any of your animals eating raw food, because of the risk of E. coli or whatnot. But when you do research, which I'll do another video on, because I just want to basically make this freestyle from my own mouth before I go into what you can actually find on Google or just researching. But basically, this is just me going in from what I've read to just certain things that I'm realizing based on what I'm doing. You get what I'm saying? But E. coli, like those type of things, cannot really exist in a dog's or a cat's, intestines, because of the fact that they have a higher acidity level. You know what I'm saying? But the whole thing is, there's certain things in these foods that actually mess with the stomach acids of these animals. You know what I'm saying? Like there's certain grain. That's why you ever see dog food, they say grain free, because grain actually alkalizes their stomach, which makes them more prone to problems where we would talk about E. coli bacteria or whatnot. You get what I'm saying? But the funny thing is that these vaccines that we give these dogs actually mess with the microbiome of the dog's stomach. Now, the problem here is that dogs are fed by certain people table cooked food. You know what I'm saying? And these dogs or animals, they're not supposed to be eating that. You know what I'm saying? Because of the oils in the foods, the seasonings and whatnot, and also the imbalance in pH now from the foods they're eating. You get what I'm saying? So it's like now, aside from the fact that they got vaccines and, you know what I'm saying, they're eating dog food more likely or not, or even given water from the faucet, which is fluoride and whatnot, then it messes their intestines up where it's not in the organic way of doing it. Now, this poop that my dog has been pooping, I've been using this as fertilizer on my raised beds. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll take a glove and I'll break it down and it turns to powder. You get what I'm saying? And what I'll do is I'll sprinkle that on my raised beds and I'll mix it in with the soil. Now, when it's crazy because when I mixed it in, it looks exactly like the fertilizers you would buy in like Lowe's or these farmers markets, where it basically, when you mix it in, it looks just like that. You'll see the little white powder in the soil. You know what I'm saying? And this is very healthy for the plants as far as, like, you know, calcium absorption and whatnot. But when you look at this is basically the dog breaking down that bone matter, and it is now bioavailable to these plants. You get what I'm saying? When you have organic food matter in your compost bins, you cannot just throw, you know, food scraps on the bottom of the roots of the plants, because that's not bioavailable nutrients for the soil. You get what I'm saying? So when we start to ask ourselves, what is actual nutrition? Because you could look at what is nutrition, what is nutritional value. It's like saying, what is the value of something? But it's only, what is the value of it to you? But when you see nutritional value, that value is only valuable to the people who are the controllers, let's say. The people who are selling you these things. You know what I'm saying? They'll tell you that nutrition is the nutritional value of foods, such as fat, carbs, and protein. You know what I'm saying? But let's say if your microbiome in your stomach is not up to par, then what does fat, carbs, and nutrients and fat, carbs, and protein matter? You get what I'm saying? You cannot absorb none of these things or even process them correctly because you don't have the correct microbiome in your stomach. So true nutrition, in my opinion, is actually having a healthy gut bacteria, having a healthy ecosystem, because it's no different than me just taking organic food, all right, and putting it at the bottom of the roots of the plant. The plant cannot absorb those nutrients unless it's already broken down by the bacteria and the beneficial microbes that break all that food matter down, give me the waste, and then I'm able to put that so-called waste, which is basically the nutrients and the gold, black gold. I'll throw that mixed in with the soil and mix it in the root ball of the plant. And now the plant has all the nutrients it needs. And then what I need to do also is make sure that I put a nice little mulch on top, which is wood chips, which I also have a friend out here who works in a tree company, and he brings me a ton of wood chips. You know what I'm saying? So I'm able to put all that on top of my soil. Now, all those microbes, now they stay underground. The mycelium network is created under there, which a lot of gardeners, they don't, I don't know. I feel like they don't do that because I didn't need to fertilize none of my plants last year. You know what I'm saying? And that's all because I had it mimicking what happens in the woods, in nature. You know what I'm saying? So when you start to look at what happens within you, okay, you need to have these microbes in there. These microbes, okay, process the nutrients that we would call nutrients. You know what I'm saying? And basically, that is basically now bioavailable to your body. I mean, to your, you know, the cells and whatnot. It has a lot to do with pH balance also, because you see, when you look at plants, if the pH is imbalanced, you could tell by the color of the plant, you could tell by the vigor of the actual stem, you know what I'm saying, when the pH is imbalanced. Now, there's the thing though, there's different types of plants that like different, you know, pH levels, such as like blueberries, blackberries, you know, these things like more of an acidic soil, while you have other plants that like more of an alkaline soil, you know what I'm saying? So, but the crazy thing here is that when you have wood chips and you have the proper mycelium network underneath, there's really no need to separate these plants. You know what I'm saying? For some reason or another, miraculously, things know how to balance themselves when it's underground if you have the proper mycelium network, because this is the actual communication network of where things are supposed to go. No different than when you eat food. And things just they need to go where they need to go. But that with a little bit of knowledge, all right, and how you feel, you can basically know and determine, all right, how to manage these bacteria that live within you. When you talk about compassion for humanity, it's more or less compassion for the microbes within you. These microbes that you see within you is how you perceive your life. Okay, it's you pushed out. You'll start to attract these type of people into your life. You know what I'm saying? Inflammatory people who are basically toxic. You know what I'm saying? Because I notice even when I am in a certain flow, the streets look cleaner to me. The highways look cleaner. I see actual people who are doing community service, keeping these highways extremely clean. But then there's times where I'll drive by these highways, like, man, who the fuck are all these pigs? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll just see garbage everywhere. And it's just a perception of how you see your life. And it's pretty funny how that works, because you basically are operating this whole thing in a way that you wouldn't even imagine. You know what I'm saying? You doing things a certain way, life starts to look a certain way. But if you're doing it unconsciously and you start to judge the things that you see outside of you as, oh man, this is terrible, you would basically just sit down and realize that it is all coming from inside of you. And it's not to just regurgitate information and say, this is, you know, everything is you inside, or you know, and we're all one. Literally, I'm telling you, it's just coming to these realizations and having an understanding that based on what you're learning out here is just basically you're learning the blueprint of what is going on within you. And when you start to meditate on these things, and this is why they say when you learn something, let me sit on it. Let me meditate on that. Let me just, you know, let me see how that sits with me. You'll start to see that it starts to connect things for you. Like I was literally planting, I have a nice Boston fern and it got really big and I literally made 4 plants out of it. But as I'm doing that, you know what I'm saying? I'm taking the soil from the raised beds and mixing in some of my compost, and man, it's just, I'm having such a beautiful time. And when we start to talk about, you know, going into a flow and whatnot and what real melanin is, you know what I mean? It's just basically you going into a flow. Your soul is, you're dancing in a way. Find what you love to do. I love gardening and I realize that this is fucking amazing, but there's certain things that I love to do and I'm going to do something with it to benefit me in the long run. See, I skate, and when I skate, I move a certain way where I can go back and look at myself on camera and be like, man, I didn't even realize I was doing that, but I moved so graciously. But why is that? Because I am in flow. Now, when I draw, I do the same thing. I am in flow, where sometimes I'll be drawing 3 hours past and it only felt like 45 minutes because I'm in flow. Sometimes I'll make videos and I don't post all of them because most of them sometimes are just for me and I don't want to publish some of them, not for any particular reason or another where I feel, you know, ashamed of them. It's just some of them are just records for me. But sometimes I'll make a video and it only felt like I did 10 minutes and it was already like 25 minutes, let's say. You know what I'm saying? So that's why the importance of finding that beauty in what you love to do. I love to exercise. Why do I exercise? Why do I go lift weights? It used to be for different reasons. It's not for the same reasons anymore. Now I lift weights because it's something where if I feel down, if I feel insecure about something, it's amazing how I'll go in there and these things are exercised and I can feel better. You know what I'm saying? But it's just an energy that's within me. But I'll make a different video on that because that's a lot to cover on that. But we'll talk soon.